Listen, the stone walls of this castle are 12 feet thick. Beyond them, the wind of the Middle Ages is howling across the dark moors. But inside this room, the air is perfectly still. You are not a king. You are not a soldier. And for the next 2 hours, you have no name, no title, and no burdens to carry. You are simply here, to fade into the shadows of a world that has been silent for 1,000 years. Close your eyes and let the weight of your body sink into the straw-filled mattress of the past. Forget the glowing screens, the notifications, and the relentless noise of the century you just left behind. Here, in the deep belly of the fortress, the only light is the low, rhythmic pulse of a dying hearth, casting amber ghosts across the granite ceiling. Can you smell it? The faint, comforting scent of dried lavender and old wood smoke clinging to the heavy wool tapestries. The world outside is vast, chaotic, and cold. But these walls were built to keep the chaos out. You are safe. You are anonymous. Everything is slow. Every breath you take is now synchronized with the quiet flickering of a single tallow candle, burning down, inch by inch, as we begin our slow, inevitable descent into the unrecorded hours of the medieval night. Imagine the room around you. It is not the grand, drafty hall of a monarch, but a small, vaulted chamber tucked away in the quietest wing of the keep. The stones here are ancient, hewn by hand from the local cliffs, and they hold the coolness of 100 winters. Reach out in your mind and touch the wall. Feel the grit of the mortar, the uneven surface where the mason's chisel left its mark centuries ago. It is solid. It is unchanging. It does not vibrate with the hum of electricity or the rush of traffic. It simply exists, a silent witness to the passage of ages. As you press your palm against that imaginary stone, feel the last of your daily anxieties draining away, absorbed by the cold, indifferent granite. The castle is breathing with you, a slow, deep inhalation of wood smoke, a long, quiet exhalation of settling dust. In this space, time is measured not by seconds, but by the steady drip of water from a distant eave and the shifting of the stars through the narrow arrow slits high above. You can hear the silence, a thick, heavy texture that wraps around you like a heavy fur cloak. It's a silence that isn't empty. It's filled with the ghosts of gentle sounds. The distant, muffled clink of a chain in the courtyard. The soft, rhythmic breathing of a hound sleeping by the embers. The sigh of the wind as it searches for a way through the heavy oak doors, only to find them barred and certain. You are protected by layers of iron, wood, and stone. Nothing can reach you here. No one expects anything from you. You are a ghost in the machinery of history, drifting through a landscape of soft edges and blurred lines. Let your thoughts become like the smoke from the hearth, thin, gray, and aimless. Watch them rise in slow spirals, twisting and turning before they vanish into the darkness of the rafters. There is no need to follow them. There is no need to catch them. Let them go. As each thought disappears, feel your limbs growing heavier. Your feet, your calves, your thighs. They are becoming part of the bed, part of the floor, part of the earth itself. Your hands are open, resting loosely, the fingers curled like autumn leaves. Your jaw is soft. Your eyelids are so heavy that the idea of opening them feels like lifting a heavy iron gate. You are sinking. You are drifting. You are transitioning from the world of doing into the world of being. We are standing at the threshold of the night. Ahead of us lies the labyrinth of the castle's daily life, seen through the eyes of those who never made it into the history books. These are the people of the shadows, the ones who woke before the sun and slept long after the moon reached its zenith. Their lives were a repetitive, hypnotic dance of ritual and labor, a rhythm that provided the heartbeat of the fortress. And as we move into their world, we will adopt their pace. We will walk where they walked, breathe the air they breathed, and feel the same bone-deep exhaustion that made sleep not just a necessity, but a profound, holy mercy. The air in the corridor outside this room is cooler, smelling of damp earth and the wax from a passing lantern. We are going to step out now, leaving the modern self behind. We are walking down the spiral stairs, our feet finding the hollows worn into the stone by thousands of previous footsteps. The darkness here is soft, like charcoal. It doesn't hide monsters. It hides peace. It hides the simplicity of a life governed by the seasons and the sun. With every step down, you are going deeper into a state of total relaxation. 10 steps. 9. 8. Your mind is clearing. 7. 6. 5. The world is fading. 4. 3. 2 and 1. All right. We have arrived at the base of the tower. The great hall is a cavern of shadows, the long oak tables polished to a dull sheen by years of use. The embers in the central fire pit are a deep, pulsing crimson, like a heartbeat in the dark. This is the anchor of the castle, the place where all paths meet. But we are not staying here. We are moving toward the kitchens, toward the laundry, toward the battlements, toward the quiet, repetitive cycles of existence that sustained this massive stone beast. You are ready now. Your spirit is as calm as the surface of the castle moat at midnight. Your body is a vessel of stillness. As we prepare to meet the first of our companions, notice how the silence has deepened. The world has narrowed down to the sound of my voice and the steady, calm rhythm of your own heart. You are an observer, a passenger on a journey through time. There is no destination other than sleep. There is no goal other than rest. The stories we are about to inhabit are not yours to solve. They are yours to drift through. They are the lullabies of the past, whispered by the stones themselves. The first light of dawn is still hours away, a distant promise that doesn't concern us yet. For now, we belong to the dark. We belong to the quiet labor and the secret moments of peace found in the midst of a hard life. We are going to find the scullery maid, hunched over her basin in the flickering light of a single rushlight. We will see the world through her tired eyes, and in doing so, we will find the permission to let go of our own weariness. The castle is a world within a world, a microcosm of human experience held together by the gravity of survival. But tonight, that gravity is gentle. It pulls you down into the comfort of your bed, into the security of the shadows. The granite is warm from the day's sun, the wool is soft, and the night is long. There is nothing but the story. There is nothing but the descent. There is nothing but the peace that comes from knowing that you are, at last, exactly where you are meant to be. The transition is nearly complete. The modern world is a ghost, a dream you once had. The medieval world is the reality, the solid, tactile, slow reality of stone and smoke. You are breathing the air of the 14th century. You are hearing the echoes of the Middle Ages. And as the candle flame flickers one last time before settling into a steady, golden glow, you feel the final cord of tension snap. You are free. You are still. You are ready to begin. Wait for the silence to settle. Let it fill every corner of your mind. In a moment, we will hear the first sound of the morning, not the roar of an engine, but the soft, metallic scrape of a bucket against a stone floor. The day is beginning for some, but for you, it is only an invitation to go deeper into the night. We are moving now softly, like a shadow moving across a wall, toward the very heart of the castle's waking life. The journey is long, but you are already there. You have already arrived at the place of perfect rest. The following hours are merely a reflection of that peace, a series of ripples on a dark, still pond. Let them wash over you. Let them carry you away. The castle is yours. The night is yours. Sleep is yours. You are awake. This awakening is not a sound or a call, but a slow, parasitic invasion of the cold. Feel the surface of the stone floor beneath your thin, brittle layer of straw. It is flat, unyielding, and possesses an absolute structural chill. Throughout the long hours of the night, this granite slab has silently siphoned the last remnants of warmth from your marrow, leaving a sensation of numbness that travels upward from your spine to the base of your skull. This is the existence of the scullery maid, the very first biological pulse in the castle's daily cycle. Your world is not woven from silk or ceremony. It is constructed from gray, pre-dawn shadows, freezing water, and the persistent, viscous grip of yesterday's animal grease. As you stir from your nest in the kitchen's darkest corner, feel the rigidity in your joints. Your fingers remain locked in a semi-permanent curve, maintaining the phantom shape of the scrubbing brush even in the depths of your exhaustion. The space around you is a cavernous void of stagnant air, smelling of extinguished oak ash and the sharp, fermented scent of food remnants. You stand, and your bare feet press against the damp, abrasive texture of the flagstones. This contact is direct and unforgiving. The first task is the ritual of the water. Imagine the immense weight of the iron-bound bucket in your grip. Its handle is scarred, pitted with rust, and bites deeply into the calloused valleys of your palm. You walk toward the courtyard well, where the early morning atmosphere presses against your skin like a freezing, wet shroud. Above, the stars are sharp, in different points of light, frozen against a night. Sky is black and polished as obsidian. You lower the bucket into the well's throat. Focus entirely on the tension of the hempen rope as it slides through your grip. The fibers are coarse, filled with tiny, stinging splinters that prick at your skin. When the bucket strikes the water far below, you feel a shift in gravity, a heavy, anchoring pull from the deep earth. Hauling it back up is a slow trial of muscular endurance. Feel the lengthening of your shoulder tendons, the hardening of your thighs, and the way your entire frame must tilt backward to counterbalance the shifting mass of the liquid. The well water spills over the rim, soaking into your rough wool tunic and creating a spreading zone of ice against your flesh. This water is so frigid, it creates a sensation of tiny needles piercing your knuckles, causing the blood in your veins to feel sluggish and thick. Back within the kitchen's shadows, you begin the war against the grease. The great hall feasted until midnight, and the remnants now lie in mountain-high piles of pewter trenchers and iron cauldrons. The cauldrons are monsters of blackened soot, their surfaces slick and opaque with layers of beef fat that have congealed into a dull, waxy white. You kneel before the massive wooden trough, the steam from the heated water rising in slow, ghostly curls that dampen your hair and soften the grime on your forehead. You take a handful of fine river sand mixed with wood ash. Feel the grit between your fingertips coarse, honest, and abrasive. As you begin to scrub, focus on the circular trajectory of your arm, round and round. The texture of the metal beneath your hand changes from slimy and resistant to smooth and stripped bare under your persistent pressure. You observe the transformation of the water in the trough. From its initial clarity, it becomes a murky, slate-gray soup, thick with the debris of the feast. Your hands eventually lose all sensation due to the temperature, a merciful numbness that allows you to work with mechanical speed. But you do not hurry. In this fortress, haste is a sin against endurance. You move with the economy of a clockwork machine. Scrub eye, rinse, stack, dot, scrub, tie, rinse, doll, stack. The pile of clean pewter grows, beginning to catch the first faint, watery blue light filtering through the high, unglazed windows. The metal is now slick and cold, a sharp contrast to the rough, puckered skin of your waterlogged fingertips. You find a small, private victory in this cleanliness, a moment of structural order in a world of soot. It is a silent conquest, marked by the disappearance of the grime. As you work, the kitchen begins to shift in temperature. The fire in the gargantuan hearth is being coaxed back to life. You feel a vibration of warmth beginning to radiate from the far wall. Not a direct heat, but a subtle agitation of the air. The scent of dry oak smoke and rising yeast begins to displace the damp, metallic smell of the well water. Your presence in this world is verified by the smallest objects. A silver spoon forgotten in the mountain of grease. You hold it for a moment, feeling its unnatural weight and the eerie smoothness of its polished surface. It represents a world you will never inhabit, a world of feather beds and white bread. But as you catch your distorted reflection in the bowl of the spoon, you recognize a strength that the owners of silver do not possess. You understand the secrets of the stone. You speak the language of the water. You are the foundation upon which their splendor rests, as solid and essential as the granite blocks of the keep itself. The light has changed now. The blue of the windows has turned to a thick, milky white. The mountain of trenchers is gone. The trough is drained. Their back is a map of dull, pulsing aches. You take a heavy cloth and wipe down the great oak table, the grain of the wood polished by centuries of palms identical to your own. The rhythm of scrubbing is replaced by the rhythm of the wipe-long sweeping strokes that clear the space for the flour and fresh meat of the new day. You begin to enter the drift, a state where exhaustion blurs the edges of your vision. The world becomes soft. The sharp edges of the iron pots dissolve into the shadows of the rafters. Your task is complete. You have awakened the soul of the kitchen. As you retreat to find a crust of dry bread, you feel the heat from the hearth becoming aggressive. At the other end of the hall, that heat is no longer a comfort. It is a dry, roaring force, ready to dominate the coming hours. A figure moves into the light of the new fire, face already flushed, eyes heavy with the same ancient fatigue you carry. The cycle is shifting forward. The water has done its work. Now, the fire must do its own. You find a corner near the bread ovens where the air is warm and smells of salt, and as you close your eyes for a stolen moment of stillness, you feel the first movement of the heavy, grease-soaked wooden gears. Leave the fading, amber glow of the kitchen hearth behind and move toward the damp, stone-flagged passage that leads toward the washhouse. This low-slung stone building is tucked away near the castle's outer curtain wall, where the air is perpetually thick with a heavy gray mist. Here, the world does not smell of roasting meat. It smells of caustic lye, wet wool, and the sharp mineral scent of river water that has remained stagnant in massive oak vats. You are the laundress, and your entire existence is defined by the relentless, silent struggle between rising steam and encroaching ice. The morning air here is a thin, biting, and translucent blue haze that clings to your skin like a damp shroud. As you step up to the massive wooden vats, feel the profound, heavy weight of the silence. It is a visual silence, marked only by the sight of condensation falling in slow, fat droplets from the blackened rafters. Your hands, which might have been soft in another life, are now a textured map of your labor reddened and cracked by the lie, calloused by the friction of heavy linen, and currently so numb from the pre-dawn chill that they feel like heavy wooden tools attached to your wrists. Reach down and plunge your arms into the first vat of water. It is so cold it feels structural, a solid, liquid weight that resists your very entry. Feel the shock of it traveling up your wrists, past your elbows, settling deep in your chest like a stone. For a moment, your breath hitches a silent gasp that vanishes into the mist, but then the ancient mechanical rhythm of the work takes over. You begin to agitate the heavy sheets, the fabric billowing beneath the surface like the ghostly, translucent sails of a sunken ship. Focus on the resistance of the water against your palms. This is a heavy, aqueous resistance, a tactile barrier that creates a wall between you and the rest of the world. You are not thinking of the lords in their velvet beds. You are focused entirely on the tension of the wet linen. It is a slow, methodical sway of the body. You pull the fabric toward you, feeling the water's mass, then push it away, your entire frame moving in a hypnotic arc that mimics the slow, soundless movement of the tide against a distant shore. Now comes the lie, the harsh, stinging spirit of the wash. You sprinkle the white powder into the water with a practiced flick of the wrist, watching it dissolve into a milky, swirling cloud. The scent is sharp and medicinal, stinging your nostrils and clearing your mind of any lingering dreams. As the chemical reacts with the cold water, a faint, deceptive warmth begins to radiate from the vat. A meager offering against the morning frost that has turned the puddles on the floor into jagged, silver mirrors. You take your wooden beetling bat, a heavy, smooth-worn paddle made of heart of oak, and begin to strike the fabric against the flat, rinsing stone. Imagine the vibration of each strike traveling through the wood, into your hand, and up to your shoulder. It is a steady, percussive movement that marks the passage of time more accurately than any clock. Each strike is a physical release of internal pressure. You are pounding the yellow dust of the summer roads and the dark wine stains of the midnight feasts out of the stubborn fibers. With every blow, you feel a bit of your own exhaustion being hammered into the stone, leaving your mind empty, quiet, and light. The steam begins to rise in earnest now, as a great iron cauldron of boiling water is hauled over and poured into the secondary tub. The white mist swirls around your face, thickening until the edges of the room soften and disappear into a blurry, gray void. Out of vapor, you are cocooned in a private universe of heat and moisture. The warmth of the steam slowly begins to thaw the bone-deep chill in your joints, creating a strange sensory paradox. Your hands are submerged in the freezing depths of the lower vat, while your face and chest are bathed in a moist, suffocating heat. It is a womb-like environment, a place where the sharp edges of reality are muffled, and your thoughts are allowed to drift like unanchored boats on a still lake. You imagine the stories woven into the linen you hold, the fine, translucent smocks of the ladies, the heavy, mud-caked tunics of the grooms, the sacred altar cloths from the silent chapel. You hold the secret history of the castle in your hands, the intimate, unwashed details of every life under this roof, expressed in the density of a weave and the smell of the fibers. The soft reveal of your quiet existence lies in this very intimacy. You know the people of this fortress better than they could ever know themselves. You see the carefully mended tears in the sleeve of a proud knight. You catch the lingering scent of dried lavender on a lady's silk veil. You recognize the rough, honest scent of the sheep on a fellow servant's woolens. In the wash-house, the hierarchy of the great all dissolves into the gray mist. Everyone's dirt is washed away by the same lie. In the same water, by the same tired hands. There is a profound, safe power in this. You are the invisible force that restores their dignity, the one who prepares them to face the world with a clean slate each morning. As you lift a heavy, sodden sheet to wring it out, feel the incredible straining tension in your forearms. You twist the fabric, your knuckles turning white, the water cascading down in a rhythmic, rushing visual torrent. It is a massive feat of strength disguised as a mundane chore, a display of endurance that no one will ever applaud, yet it is as vital as the locking of the main gate. The sun is finally beginning to touch the highest crenellations of the towers, casting long, needle-like shadows across the yard. But here in the blue-gray shadows of the laundry, the dawn lingers in a state of suspended animation. Your arms have grown leaden, the initial numbness in your fingers finally replaced by a deep, pulsing throb that signals the return of blood to the skin. You begin to carry the heavy wicker baskets of wet laundry out to the drying line stretched across the inner ward. The air is crisper here, smelling of winter frost and the dormant, sleeping grass. As you shake out each sheet, watch the snap of the fabric against the wind. It is a rhythmic, visual beta flash of white against the gray stone. You watch the linen catch the first true light of the day, turning from a dull, sodden gray to a brilliant, almost blinding white. In this moment, the hours of labor are justified. You have taken the chaos, the grime, and the shadows of the night and transformed them into order, cleanliness, and light. A sense of safe, quiet completion settles over you, a profound satisfaction that is the only true reward for a task that will simply begin again with the next moonrise. But as the wind catches the damp sheets, it carries a different, heavier scent from across the inner ward, a pungent, earthy odor that cuts through the sterile cleanliness of the laundry. It is the smell of the earth's darkest, most forgotten corners, the smell of the castle's hidden, visceral underbelly. Far below the white linen and the steaming vats, a man is moving through the narrowest, foulest stone passages of the fortress. He does not work with water or light, but with the heavy remnants of human life that everyone else in the castle wishes to forget. We leave the snapping white sheets and the fresh morning air to descend once more, moving into the damp, lightless silence of the deep sewers, following the flickering, oily glow of a torch as the gong farmer begins his long, lonely journey through the very veins of the stone. Leave the fading, amber glow of the kitchen hearth behind and navigate the damp, stone-flagged passage that leads toward the washhouse. This low-slung stone building is tucked away near the castle's outer curtain wall, where the air is perpetually thick with a heavy gray mist that stays suspended in the atmosphere. Here, the world does not present itself through roasting meat. It manifests as the scent of caustic lye, wet wool, and the sharp mineral presence of river water that has remained stagnant in massive oak vats. You are the laundress, and your entire existence is defined by the relentless, silent struggle between rising steam and encroaching ice. The morning air here is a thin, biting and translucent blue haze that clings to your skin like a damp shroud, pressing against your pores with a constant cooling weight. As you step up to the massive wooden vats, feel the profound, heavy weight of the visual silence. It is a stillness marked only by the sight of condensation falling in slow, fat droplets from the blackened rafters, landing in perfect silent ripples on the surface of the water. Your hands, which might have been soft in another life, are now a textured map of your labor, reddened and cracked by the chemical lye, calloused by the friction of heavy linen, and currently so numb from the pre-dawn chill that they feel like heavy wooden tools attached to your wrists. Reach down and plunge your arms into the first vat of water. It is so cold it feels structural, a solid liquid weight that resists your very entry. Feel the shock of it traveling up your wrists, past your elbows, settling deep in your chest like a stone sinker. For a moment, your breath hitches a silent internal gasp that vanishes into the mist. But then the ancient mechanical rhythm of the work takes over. You begin to agitate the heavy sheets, the fabric billowing beneath the surface like the ghostly, translucent sails of a sunken ship. Focus on the resistance of the water against your palms. This is a heavy, aqueous resistance, a tactile barrier that creates a wall between you and the rest of the world. You are not thinking of the lords in their velvet beds. You are focused entirely on the tension of the wet linen. It is a slow, methodical sway of the body, a rhythmic shifting of weight from your heels to the balls of your feet. You pull the fabric toward you, feeling the water's mass, then push it away. Your entire frame moving in a hypnotic arc that mimics the slow, soundless movement of the tide against a distant, forgotten shore. Now comes the lie, the harsh, stinging spirit of the wash. You sprinkle the white powder into the water with a practiced flick of the wrist, watching it dissolve into a milky, swirling cloud. The scent is sharp and medicinal, stinging your nostrils and clearing your mind of any lingering dreams. As the chemical reacts with the cold water, a faint, deceptive warmth begins to radiate from the vat, a meager offering against the morning frost that has turned the puddles on the floor into jagged, silver mirrors. You take your wooden beetling bata, heavy, smooth-worn paddle made of heart of oak, and begin to strike the fabric against the flat rinsing stone. Imagine the vibration of each strike, traveling through the wood, into your hand, and up to your shoulder. It is a steady, percussive movement that marks the passage of time more accurately than any clock. Each strike is a physical release of internal pressure. You are pounding the yellow dust of the summer roads and the dark wine stains of the midnight feasts out of the stubborn fibers. With every blow, you feel a bit of your own exhaustion being hammered into the stone, leaving your mind empty, quiet, and light. The steam begins to rise in earnest now, as a great iron cauldron of boiling water is hauled over and poured into the secondary tub. The white mist swirls around your face, thickening until the edges of the room soften and disappear into a blurry gray void. In this cloud of vapor, you are cocooned in a private universe of heat and moisture. The warmth of the steam slowly begins to thaw the bone-deep chill in your joints, creating a strange sensory paradox. Your hands are submerged in the freezing depths of the lower vat, while your face and chest are bathed in a moist, suffocating heat. It is a womb-like environment, a place where the sharp edges of reality are muffled, and your thoughts are allowed to drift like unanchored boats on a still, dark lake. You imagine the stories woven into the linen you hold, the fine, translucent smocks of the ladies in waiting, the heavy, mud-caked tunics of the grooms, the sacred altar cloths from the silent chapel. You hold the secret history of the castle in your hands, the intimate, unwashed details of every life under this roof, expressed in the density of a weave and the smell of the fibers. The soft reveal of your quiet existence lies in this very intimacy. You know the people of this fortress better than they could ever know themselves. You see the carefully mended tears in the sleeve of a proud knight. You catch the lingering scent of dried lavender on a lady's silk veil. You recognize the rough, honest scent of the sheep on a fellow servant's woolens. In the wash-house, the hierarchy of the great hall dissolves into the gray mist. Everyone's dirt is washed away by the same lye, in the same water, by the same tired hands. There is a profound, safe power in this. You are the invisible force that restores their dignity, the one who prepares them to face the world with a clean slate each morning. As you lift a heavy, sodden sheet to wring it out, feel the incredible, straining tension in your forearms. You twist the fabric, your knuckles turning white, the water cascading down in a rhythmic, rushing visual torrent. It is a massive feat of strength disguised as a mundane chore, a display of endurance that no one will ever applaud. Yet it is as vital as the locking of the main gate. The sun is finally beginning to touch the highest crenellations of the towers, casting long, needle-like shadows across the yard. But here in the blue-gray shadows of the laundry, the dawn lingers in a state of suspended animation. Your arms have grown leaden, the initial numbness in your fingers finally replaced by a deep, pulsing throb that signals the return of blood to the skin. You begin to carry the heavy wicker baskets of wet laundry out to the drying lines stretched across the inner ward. The air is crisper here, smelling of winter frost and the dormant, sleeping grass. As you shake out each sheet, watch the snap of the fabric against the wind. It is a rhythmic, visual beat, a flash of white against the gray stone. You watch the linen catch the first true light of the day, turning from a dull, sodden gray to a brilliant, almost blinding white. In this moment, the hours of labor are justified. You have taken the chaos, the grime, and the shadows of the night and transformed them into order, cleanliness, and light. A sense of safe, quiet completion settles over you. A profound satisfaction that is the only lie. True reward for a task that will simply begin again with the next moonrise. As you stand amidst the rows of drying linen, the world feels balanced. The texture of the rough fabric under your fingers, the cooling dampness of the wind on your face, and the slow slowing of your own pulse create a sanctuary of tactile peace. You are no longer the worker. You are the stillness that follows the work. The movement of the clouds above mirrors, the movement of the water in your tub slow, inevitable, and silent. This is the drift of the laundress, the point where the body becomes so attuned to the rhythm of the task that the mind is finally set free. You look at your hands, red and swollen, and you see them as the tools of a quiet grace. You have washed the day clean, and in doing so, you have prepared a blank canvas for the stories of tomorrow to be written upon. But as the wind catches the damp sheets, it carries a different, heavier scent from across the inner ward, a pungent, earthy odor that cuts through the sterile cleanliness of the laundry. It is the smell of the earth's darkest, most forgotten corners, the smell of the castle's hidden, visceral underbelly. Far below the white linen and the steaming vats, a man is moving through the narrowest, foulest stone passages of the fortress. He does not work with water or light, but with the heavy remnants of human life that everyone else in the castle wishes to forget. We leave the snapping white sheets and the fresh morning air to descend once more, moving into the damp, lightless silence of the deep sewers, following the flickering, oily glow of a torch as the gong farmer begins his long, lonely journey through the very veins of the stone, moving with a slowness that rivals the cooling of the earth. Leave the snapping, sun-bleached linen and the fresh, biting wind of the courtyard behind. We are beginning a descent that moves against the natural inclination of the light, a journey into the literal foundations of the fortress. Imagine yourself standing before a small, unassuming wooden door, reinforced with rusted iron bands, located at the lowest level of the cold west tower. The door offers a heavy, grinding resistance as you push it open, revealing a narrow, claustrophobic stone spiral staircase that winds deep into the very guts of the earth. This is your kingdom. You are the gong farmer, the cleaner of the castle's darkest, most forgotten veins, the man who performs the labor that every other soul in this keep wishes to ignore, yet cannot survive without. As you step onto the first stair, feel the immediate shift in the atmosphere. The air here has lost the crisp, sharp edge of the morning frost. Instead, it is a thick, heavy, and damp weight, a subterranean pressure that carries the scent of ancient earth, wet granite, and the slow, relentless decay of organic life. Every footstep you take on the slick, uneven stone steps sends a heavy vibration through your own bones, a rhythmic pulse that marks your descent into the obsidian dark. You do not hurry. In these depths, time does not exist as a sequence of minutes, but as a slow, tactile pulse of shadow. Your iron lantern swings at your side, its flame a tiny, flickering amber heart in a world of absolute blackness. The light licks at the walls, revealing patches of dark moss and glistening trails of moisture that weep from the mortar like the silent tears of the stones themselves. When you finally reach the base of the tower, you stand before the massive vaulted cesspits that sit directly beneath the privies of the highborn. Imagine the total, suffocating weight of the visual silence here. You set your lantern down on a jagged stone ledge, its yellow glow barely reaching the corners of the cavern, casting long, monstrous shadows of the wooden tubs and the heavy, iron-shod shovels that are your only companions in the deep. You begin the work. The sensation of the shovel biting into the thick, viscous mud of the pit is a feeling like no other, a rhythmic, wet resistance that pulls against your shoulders. It is a heavy, dense, and deeply hypnotic movement that fills the stillness of the vault. You lift each shovelful with a slow, deliberate heave, feeling the strain across your lower back and the burning of the muscles in your forearms. Lift, das, move, dump, diet. The rhythm repeats, over and over, a manual metronome in the dark. Your body is bent low beneath the sweating stone arches, your movements restricted by the geometry of the earth. Feel the grit of the soil beneath your fingernails, the dampness of your tunic clinging to your spine, and the profound sense of physical isolation. In this space, there are no commands from the steward, no clatter of swords, no gossip from the laundry. There is only you and the weight of the task, a sacred, lonely solitude that borders on the meditative. The lantern flame sputters occasionally, causing the shadows on the ceiling to dance like ancient, forgotten gods guarding the secrets of the castle's history. You stare at these shifting shapes, your mind beginning to unmoor from the reality of the surface world. You wipe a bead of cold sweat from your brow with the back of a mud-streaked hand, and in that brief pause, the stillness becomes so absolute that you can feel the slow, steady drum of your own heart, a rhythmic, biological echo of the shovel's movement. You realize, in this moment of deep immersion, that you are the essential plumbing of this stone beast. You are the one who removes the toxic remnants of yesterday so that the life above can flourish tomorrow. There's a strange, safe comfort in this realization, a quiet pride in knowing that your position is unshakable, precisely because it is so humble and so hidden from the light of day. The visual landscape of your work is one of monochrome depths. The dark, oily sheen of the waste, the gray of the limestone, and the flickering orange of the tallow flame. You watch the way the light reflects off the stagnant pools, creating a shimmering, distorted mirror of the vaulted ceiling above. There is a beauty in this darkness, a raw, elemental honesty that the upper world lacks. You are working at the very root of existence, where everything eventually returns to the earth. The weight of the shovel becomes an extension of your own arm, the wood smoothed by years of contact with your palms. You move with a grace that is born of necessity, a fluid economy of motion that prevents the heavy mud from splashing against your skin. You are a ghost in the machine, a silent operator moving through the veins of the fortress. When the wooden tubs are finally brimful and heavy with the earth's burden, you begin the most grueling part of the ritual, hauling them up to the surface to be carted away before the sun truly breaks the horizon. You grip the thick hempen rope, feeling the coarse fibers bite into the calloused valleys of your palms. Heave, breathe, heave, breathe. The tension in the rope is a living thing, pulling against you with a constant, unforgiving gravity. The weight of the tub tries to drag you back down into the dark, but you lean into the rope, your heels digging into the slick floor. Inch by inch, you bring the night's work toward the faint gray promise of the exit. The soft reveal of this moment comes when you glimpse the stars through a tiny vertical arrow slit in the masonry. Those stars are cold, distant, and shimmering, the ultimate contrast to the mire beneath your feet. And yet, you feel a connection to them. You are the bridge between the mud and the constellations, the one who keeps the balance between the heights and the depths. Outside, a thick silver mist is rolling off the moat, swirling around the base of the walls like a sea of clouds. You empty the tubs into the fields far beyond the gates, where the waste will be transformed into the emerald green of next spring's barley. The cycle of life is visible here in its most primal, tactile form. You stand for a moment in the fading dark, letting the icy wind from the river wash over your sweat-soaked woolens. This cold is not an enemy. It is a purification. You feel your body growing light, as if the physical weight you just discarded has taken the heaviness of your thoughts with it. The exhaustion in your limbs is now a drifting, ethereal sensation, a state of drift, where your mind begins to blur at the edges, no longer tethered to the harshness of the labor. You are a shadow among shadows, a silent witness to the dawn. The first true violet light of dawn is beginning to stain the tips of the highest spires far above your head. Your work is finished. You retreat to the back of the stables, where a deep nest of dry, sweet-smelling straw awaits you next to the residual warmth of the resting horses. You will sleep while the rest of the world begins to hustle and shout. But just before you close your heavy lids, your eyes catch a new movement from the high muse, powerful, rhythmic rustle of feathers against the sky. We leave the damp earth and the silent tunnels of the underworld to rise once more, ascending to the high, wind-swept spaces where the eyes of the sky are waiting for the touch of a man who understands the language of the wind and the tactile strength of the leather glove. Leave the heavy, damp stagnation of the subterranean vaults behind and begin a vertical journey through the central keep. We are moving upward, away from the visceral weight of the earth and toward the expansive, thinning atmosphere of the high wooden galleries that cling to the highest stone faces of the fortress. Here, the very quality of existence is transformed. The air is no longer thick with the scent of lye or the pressure of the sewers. It is sharp, crystalline, and intoxicatingly fresh, carrying the scent of distant pines and the metallic, cooling tang of the high-altitude mist. You are the falconer, and your world is one of immense altitude, scarred leather, and the fierce, silent intelligence of the birds of prey. The morning here is a pale, translucent gold, the sun just beginning to bleed a faint warmth over the jagged, slate-gray horizon. As you step into the mews the high, timber-framed chambers where the hawks and falcons reside, feel the immediate, structural shift in your posture. Your back straightens, your chest expands to pull in the thin air, and your eyes instinctively seek the furthest, most unreachable reaches of the blue sky. The environment of the mews is a masterpiece of tactile and visual precision. Observe the soft, dry movement of feathers as a peregrine falcon shifts its weight on a perch of gnarled, ancient oak. The feathers slide over one another like sheets of living silk, a motion so fluid it seems to defy the laws of friction. You move through the room with a slow, deliberate grace, your footsteps muffled by a thick, insulating layer of clean river sand on the floor. In this space, any sudden movement is a disruption of the balance. You have learned to embody the absolute stillness of the stone itself, so as not to startle the keen-eyed hunters who watch you with unblinking obsidian intensity. Their eyes are like dark, polished gemstones, reflecting the flickering torchlight in a way that suggests a depth of vision far beyond human capability. There is a profound mutual respect in this visual silence, a contract written in the language of the gaze between the man of the earth and the creatures of the wind. You reach for your hawking glove, a heavy, multi-layered piece of buckskin that reaches nearly to your elbow. It is dark with oil and scarred by the countless talons that have gripped it over the years, feeling stiff yet reassuringly solid against your skin. As you slide your hand into the leather, feel the weight and the protective density of the material. It is your shield, your bridge, and your anchor. You approach the master tiercel, a bird of incredible power and sleek, charcoal beauty. You do not speak. You communicate through the subtle shifting of your weight and the steadiness of your breath. This is your safe anchor, the wordless recognition between two predators. You extend your arm, and with a powerful rhythmic push of wings that sends a sudden gust of cool air against your face, the bird settles onto your wrist. Feel the incredible focused pressure of his grip, the way his talons find the familiar, worn grooves in the leather. He is heavy, a solid mass of muscle and prehistoric instinct, yet he feels as ethereal as a dream caught in the morning light. The ritual of the hood is a masterpiece of microtactile precision. You take the small, ornate leather cap, stitched with silver thread and topped with a plume of heron feathers, and gently slide it over the bird's head. As the plumes settle, the falcon instantly becomes a statue of absolute stillness, entering a state of artificial night. His breathing slows to a rhythmic rise and fall of the breast, and yours slows in perfect unison. You are now two hearts beating as one in the cold, golden morning light. This is the core of your immerse. Stage the total, unwavering focus required to maintain this delicate balance. You begin to check the leather thongs, the jesses, and the silver swivels, your fingers moving with the mechanical certainty of a clockmaker. Every knot is a tactile promise of safety. Every adjustment is an act of silent devotion. The world of the castle, below the bustling kitchens, the damp laundry, the dark sewers, is a distant, blurry memory. Up here, there is only the wind, the scent of leather, and the bird. The soft reveal of your life is the realization that you are the most captive of all the servants, precisely because you are the one who manages the absolute freedom of the sky. You spend your days staring at the horizon, watching the falcons soar into the thermals, until they are nothing but microscopic specks against the infinite blue. Yet you must always remain rooted to the stone battlements. You are the guardian of their wildness, the one who tenses as they dive in a blur of gray and exhales when they return to the glove. There is a bittersweet beauty in this, a quiet, enduring patience that has smoothed the edges of your soul like a river stone. As you stroke the bird's breast feathers with the back of a single finger, feeling the incredible warmth trapped beneath the down, you realize that you do not own the sky. You simply borrow a piece of it every morning. This knowledge brings a deep, structural peace to your mind, a sense of belonging to something much larger and more ancient than the walls of the keep. As the sun rises higher, casting long golden fingers across the valley, you prepare for the morning's exercise. You lead the birds out onto the high ramparts, where the wind catches the fur of your cloak and tugs at the leather ties of your boots. The view from here is dizzying. The forest below looks like a carpet of dark, textured moss, and the river is a silver thread winding through the evaporating mist. You unhood the falcon, and for a split second you see the world through his eyes, a landscape not of objects, but of thermal currents, air pressure, and infinite distance. Then, with a sudden explosive launch, he is gone. You watch him spiral upward, his wings cutting the air in a rhythmic visual pattern that grows smaller and smaller. Your arm remains extended, a solitary post in the sky, waiting for the inevitable return. The slow story of the hunt is not about the kill, but about the soaring, the drifting, and the eventual, graceful descent back to the safety of the glove. The exhaustion you feel at the end of the morning is not the bone-dry fatigue of the spit boy or the damp ache of the laundress. It is a mental weariness, a drift born from hours of staring into the bright, empty blue. Your eyes are tired from the glare, and your arm is heavy from the constant weight of the birds. As the falcon returns, dropping from the sky like a falling star to land softly and precisely on your wrist, you feel a surge of safe completion. The day's work is done. The birds are fed, hooded, and return to their perches in the cool shadows of the mews. You remain for a moment on the battlements, watching the shadows of the towers stretch out across the world like long, dark fingers reaching for the night. The sky is turning a deep, bruised purple, and the first stars are beginning to pierce through the veil of the atmosphere. But the silence of the high mews is not the only silence in the castle. As the air cools and the wind dies down, the scent of the stables begins to rise, a warm, earthy perfume of dry hay, bruised oats, and the powerful, comforting musk of resting horses. Below the high towers, in the shadows of the inner ward, another man is moving through the golden haze of the barn. He does not look at the sky, for his world is one of iron shoes, coarse brushes, and the rhythmic, heavy visual expansion of the great war stallion's lungs. We leave the wind and the feathers to descend into the amber warmth of the stables, following the sight of the swaying lantern and the rhythmic motion of a currycomb, as the stable hand begins his final rounds of the evening, moving with a slowness that suggests the very earth is preparing to sleep. Leave the sharp, thinning atmosphere of the high battlements and the distant, silver glint of the falcon's flight behind. We are descending now, back toward the heavy wooden gates of the inner ward, where the air grows thick, warm and golden with the hazy suspension of sun-drenched dust motes. You are the stable hand, and your world is one of immense physical presence, rhythmic labor, and the deep, wordless companionship of the great war horses. As you push open the heavy oak doors of the stables, the transition is immediate and profound. The biting wind of the courtyard is swallowed by an enveloping structural warmth, a heat generated by the massive bodies of 20 stallions, the sweet fermentation of dry clover, and the pungent, comforting musk of leather and horsehair. This is a sanctuary of biological rhythm. Even in the deepest part of the night, the stables never truly sleep. They expand and contract with the visual movement of 20 pairs of lungs. Observe it now, the low, guttural rise and fall of their flanks, the occasional rhythmic shifting of a heavy hoof against the packed, damp earth, and the slow, dry ripple of straw as a horse adjusts its weight in the shadows. Your first task of the evening is the grooming, a ritual of tactile connection that demands your full attention and your entire body's strength. You approach the master's favorite destrier, a black stallion of incredible power whose coat shimmers like liquid oil in the dim amber light of your lantern. You do not speak. You lean your forehead against the side of his neck, feeling the incredible, pulsing heat radiating from his skin. This is your safe anchor, the tactile recognition between man and beast, a shared frequency of existence. You take up the currycomb, a heavy tool of serrated iron with a smooth wooden handle, and begin the long sweeping strokes across the horse's flank. Scrape, dot, glide. Scrape, dot, glide. Feel the resistance of the thick winter coat against your palm. Your arm moves in a wide, hypnotic arc, your shoulder leaning into the work to provide the necessary pressure. The dust rises in a slow, swirling cloud, dancing in the amber beam of the lantern before settling back into the straw. It is a slow, methodical dance of friction and release, a repetition that begins to numb the chatter of your own mind. As you work, focus on the sensation of the heat radiating from the horse's skin. It is a deep, internal warmth that seems to seep into your own chilled fingers. Thawing the marrow of your bones after the cold walk across the ward. The horse lets out, a long, shuddering expansion of his chest, his heavy head drooping as he leans his entire weight into your touch. In this moment, you are immersed in a reality that has remained unchanged for 1,000 years. There is no past and no future here, only the texture of the hair, the smell of the oats, and the steady rhythmic visual thud of the horse's heart visible through his ribs. You move to the next stall, and then the next, your movements becoming mechanical, fluid, and effortless. You are no longer a servant performing a chore. You are part of the stable's slow-moving biological machinery. The weight of the world, the taxes, the wars, the hunger is held at bay by these thick timbered walls. Inside this space, everything is certain. Everything is slow. The slow story of the stables is told in the language of the equipment. You move to the tack room, a small, cedar-scented chamber where the saddles and bridles hang like sleeping ghosts from iron pegs. You take down a heavy war saddle, the leather stiff and cold from the evening air. You begin to apply the tallow and oil, your fingers working the grease into the deep, thirsty pores of the hide. Rub, dot, press, rub, dot, press. The leather darkens under your touch, a visual transformation from dry gray to a rich, supple black. You feel the elasticity returning to the material, the way it drinks in the oil until it glows with a soft, matte sheen. This is the hidden poetry of your labor. You are the one who ensures that the leather will not snap and the horse will not gallop in pain. You are the silent protector of both man and animal, working in the golden gloom while the moon climbs toward its zenith. The reveal of your quiet existence is the realization that you are the only soul in the castle who truly knows the vulnerability of the powerful. You see the great stallions when they are exhausted, their flanks heaving with a rhythmic foam. You see the fierce knights when they come to the stables in the dead of night, just to lean their heads against a horse's neck and seek a moment of wordless comfort. You are the keeper of their secrets, the witness to the moments when the armor is stripped away and only the breathing remains. There is a profound, safe weight in this knowledge, a sense of belonging to the earth and the animals that makes the politics of the great hall seem like the buzzing of distant, irrelevant flies. As you finish the last saddle, your hands are slick with oil, and your back is a map of dull, warm aches, but your mind is as clear and still as a forest pool at midnight. Now comes the final feeding. You carry the heavy wicker baskets of bruised oats and dried hay through the narrow aisle. The sight of the horses anticipating their meal is a rhythmic, percussive, visual symphony. The shifting of hooves, the flaring of nostrils, the soft, swaying movement of 20 head. You distribute the grain, watching the muzzles dip into the wooden mangers. Chew, grind. Chew, grind. It is the most satisfying sight in the world. The visual manifestation of hunger being met with abundance. You stand there for a long time, leaning against a post, watching the rhythmic movement of their jaws and the way the light catches the moisture on their dark eyes. The exhaustion in your limbs is now adrift, a heavy, syrupy feeling that makes your legs feel like they are rooted into the stable floor, pulling you down toward the earth. The night has reached its deepest point. The lanterns are burning low, their tallow nearly spent, creating long, soft-edged shadows that stretch across the rafters. The warmth of the stable is so thick now that it feels like a physical embrace, a heavy blanket of organic heat. You take a final walk to the end of the aisle, checking the iron bolts on the rear doors with a slow, deliberate touch. The world outside is a silent, frozen landscape of silver and shadow, but here, the air is alive with the warmth of life. You find your own corner in the hayloft, a deep nest of clover-scented straw that holds the lingering warmth of the day's sun. As you sink into it, your body disappearing into the dry, rustling depths, you feel the final snap of the day's tension. You are safe. You are warm. You are finished. But even as the stables settle into their final heavy slumber, the castle's internal rhythm continues. High above the straw and the horses, in a quiet, drafty chamber tucked behind the great hall, a different kind of fire is burning. It is not the roaring hearth of the kitchen or the warmth of the stables, but the steady, silent glow of 1,000 wax vats. There, a man works with molten light and cotton wicks, his hands moving with the visual precision of a clockmaker. We leave the scent of the horses and the soft, dry texture of the hay to climb the back stairs, following the faint, sweet smell of beeswax to the workshop of the candlemaker, where the night is being transformed into the promise of light, and the only movement is the slow, rhythmic drip of liquid gold. Leave the warm biological musk of the stables and the heavy, dry texture of the hay behind. We are climbing a narrow secondary staircase of cold, porous limestone, moving away from the animals and toward the silent, scent-filled upper chambers of the inner keep. You are the candle maker, and your world is one of molten light, golden beeswax, and the steady, hypnotic visual precision of the dip. As you enter your workshop, the atmosphere shifts from the earthy and the wild to something refined, sweet, and profoundly still. The air here is a thick, invisible syrup of the highly deep, honeyed scent of beeswax mingled with the acrid, fatty density of rendered mutton tallow. This is the castle's reservoir of clarity. In a world of encroaching darkness, you are the one who captures the fire and tames it into a portable, steady glow. The room is visually static, marked only by the slow, rhythmic descent of liquid wax falling into the cooling vats and the low, steady orange pulse of the small charcoal brazier in the corner. The ritual of the candle begins with the wick, a simple strand of braided cotton or hemp that will become the soul of the light. You take a long wooden rod from which a dozen wicks hang like thin, white, vertical ghosts. Your hands move with a mechanical, unhurried grace safe and certain motion born of 1,000 nights spent in this very spot. You approach the first vat of molten tallow, the liquid shimmering like a dark, oily mirror in the moonlight. This is the foundation of your labor. You lower the rod. Ein sink, torn to wow. Hold, die, lift, dot. The wicks disappear into the heat and emerge with a thin, translucent coating that instantly begins to pale and harden in the cool air. It is a slow, evolutionary process. You cannot rush the wax. It has its own schedule, its own laws of cooling and tension. You move to the second vat, then the third, walking in a slow, rhythmic circle that becomes the visual heartbeat of your night. Every step is measured, ensuring the liquid in the vats remains as smooth as a sheet of glass. Feel the texture of the air against your skin. It is warm and humid near the vats, but sharp and drying near the open window where the night air drifts in. This contrast is your constant companion. You are a gimmerstay in a cycle of temperature and time. As you dip the wicks again, ich sink, hold, died, lift mine, the candles begin to grow, layer by layer, like the rings of an ancient tree. They gain weight, pulling at your shoulders with a gentle, insistent gravity. You feel the muscles in your forearms tightening as the rod becomes heavier, yet your movements remain as smooth as the liquid in the vats. There is no room for a sudden twitch or a hurried breath. One mistake would ripple through the wax, leaving a physical flaw that the flame would eventually find. You are the architect of the evening's visibility, and your precision is a form of silent, tactile prayer. The weight of the rod is a comfort, a tangible measure of the progress you have made against the coming dark. The slow storing of the workshop is found in the visual difference between the materials. After the tallow comes the beeswax, the gold of the castle. You move to the smaller copper vat, where the honey-scented wax pulses with a deep, amber light. This is for the chapel and the Lord's private study. As you dip the candles into this precious liquid, the scent changes, becoming sweeter, cleaner, and more ethereal. It fills your lungs, acting as a natural sedative that slows your pulse and clears the fog of exhaustion from your mind. You watch the wax cling to the wick, the way it flows and settles in a perfect tapering cylinder. It is a masterpiece of fluid dynamics, a frozen moment of liquid grace. You are not just making a tool. You are crafting time itself, for each inch of this wax represents an hour of someone's life in the dark. The candles glow with an inner warmth, their surfaces becoming matte and soft as they cool in the draft of the workshop. The reveal of your quiet existence is the realization that you are the only one who knows the true cost of the night. Every candle you make is a physical measurement of the castle's fear of the dark. You see how many are burned in the chapel during times of sickness. You see the thick, expensive tapers requested for the war room where maps are studied until dawn. You are the silent accountant of the fortress's anxiety and its devotion. There is a profound, safe power in this knowledge, a sense of being the provider of the one thing everyone needs but no one understands. As you hang the finished rods on the drying racks, the candles swaying slightly in the draft like a forest of pale, silent bells, you feel a deep, structural peace settle over you. The labor is clean, the air is sweet, and the result is literal enlightenment. You look at your hands, coated in a thin, protective layer of wax that feels like a second skin, smooth and unyielding. Now comes the final trimming. You take a small, sharp knife and move down the rows, cutting away the excess wax from the bottom of each candle. Slice, press, slice, press, dot. It is a visual, satisfying motion that marks the end of the ritual. The wax shavings fall into a basket like golden snow, to be melted down and used again. Nothing is wasted. The world outside is a chaotic landscape of shadow and wind, but here, everything is reclaimed and repurposed. The exhaustion in your limbs is now a dry driftame, a weightless, floating sensation that makes your workshop feel like it is drifting through the clouds. You are no longer tethered to the stone. You are a part of the light you have created. Your vision begins to soften, the rows of white and amber candles blurring into a single shimmering field of color. The night is at its turning point. The charcoal in the brazier is nothing but a bed of gray, glowing ash, and the wax in the vats is beginning to skin over, forming a delicate, opaque crust. The warmth of the room is fading, replaced by the persistent, creeping cold of the pre-dawn hour. You take one last look at your work, hundreds of candles, straight and true, waiting to be carried into the dark corners of the keep. You find your small cot in the corner, tucked behind the drying racks where the scent of honey is strongest. As you lie down, your body sinking into the wool blankets, you feel the final cord of the day's tension snap. You are safe. You are surrounded by the promise of light. You are finished. But as the workshop falls silent and the scent of wax lingers in the air, another visual rhythm begins to dominate the castle's hollow veins. It is not the drip of wax or the rustle of hay, but the steady, rhythmic movement of a quill pen moving across dry, pale parchment. Far below the Candlemuse, in a vaulted cell lined with thousands of leather-bound secrets, a man sits in a pool of golden light, recording the history that the rest of the world has already forgotten. We leave the scent of honey and the cooling wax to descend into the silent, ink-stained world of the scribe, where the only thing that moves is the shadow of a pen and the slow, steady expansion of a scholar's chest as he breathes the dusty air of the archives. Leave the sweet, lingering scent of honey and the cooling, opaque wax of the Candlemuse behind. We are descending a final set of stone stairs, moving toward the very heart of the castle's memory. The scriptorium. This is a vaulted, stone-lined chamber tucked behind the great hall, where the air remains eternally still and smells of oak gall ink, dried vellum, and the faint, dusty scent of ancient parchment. You are the scribe, and your world is one of ink-stained fingers, flickering amber light, and the immense, silent weight of unrecorded time. As you enter this sanctuary, the chaos of the castle disappears. The stone walls are lined with wooden cubicles, each containing a slanted desk worn smooth by the friction of 1,000 forearms. The only light comes from a single high-quality beeswax candle. Observe the stillness here. It is not empty. It is a dense, vibrating quiet. The only movement is the rhythmic, mechanical glide of a quill moving across a dry surface, a visual trail of black ink appearing like magic on a pale field. The ritual of the page begins with the preparation of the vellum. You take a sheet of calfskin, scraped thin and treated with lime until it is as smooth as silk and as pale as the moon. Your hands move with a practiced, mechanical grace, a safe and certain motion that is your only anchor in this world of shadows. You use a lead plummet to draw faint, horizontal lines across the page, a structural lattice that will keep your thoughts from drifting. Feel the texture of the lead against the skin. It is a soft gray resistance that leaves a ghostly trail. Then you reach for your quill, a primary feather from a swan, cured in hot sand until it is hard and translucent. You take your knife and shape the nib with a single decisive stroke. This is your tool of creation, your bridge between the wordless dark and the recorded light. You are immersed in the geometry of the page, your focus narrowing until the entire world consists only of the nib and the fibers of the vellum. You dip the quill into the inkhorn, a hollowed-out cow horn filled with a black, viscous fluid. The scent is metallic and sharp, a cold smell that cuts through the warmth of the candle. As the nib touches the vellum, the slow story begins. You form the first letter, a large, ornate I in the Gothic style. Your hand moves in a slow, deliberate arc, the ink flowing from the quill in a dark, shimmering line that catches the light before it sinks into the skin. Push, pull, die, lift, dot. A rhythm is absolute. You are not writing words. You are carving meaning into the silence. You feel the tension in your shoulder, the way your neck muscles tighten as you hunch over the desk, but you do not stop. Every stroke must be perfect. A single drip of ink would be a catastrophe, a stain on the memory of the house. You are the architect of the archive, and your precision is a form of silent, visual meditation. The beauty of your work is found in the repetitive nature of the script. Row after row of identical letters, marching across the page like a disciplined army of shadows. As you work, you begin to lose the sense of your own body. You are no longer a man sitting in a cold room. You are simply an extension of the pen. The candle flame flickers occasionally, causing the letters to dance and the shadows of your hand to leap across the wall, but your focus remains unbroken. You are recording the births, the deaths, the taxes, and the triumphs of people who will be forgotten in 100 years. Yet because of your hand, their names will endure. There is a profound, safe power in this realization, a sense of being the one who holds the keys to the past and the future. You are the silent witness to the passage of ages. The reveal of your quiet existence is the knowledge that the written word is more durable than the stone keep itself. You see the knights boasting of their strength, yet they come to you to have their wills written, because they know their strength will fade. You see the lords claiming land, yet that land is only theirs as long as your parchment says it is. You are the true master of the castle, the one who defines reality through the movement of your hand. As you reach the end of the page, your fingers are cramped, and your eyes are burning from the glare of the single candle. But your mind is as calm as a frozen lake. You take a handful of fine silver sand and sprinkle it over the wet ink to dry it. The sand flows over the page like a gentle, soundless wave of silver, absorbing the excess moisture and leaving the letters matte and permanent. It is the final punctuation of your labor. The exhaustion in your limbs is now adrift, a floating, ethereal sensation that makes the scriptorium feel like it is suspended in time. You are fading into the parchment, your consciousness merging with the black ink. The world outside is a chaotic landscape of wind and shadow, but here, everything is preserved and permanent. You take one last look at your work, the dark, elegant script glowing in the dying candlelight, and feel a sense of profound completion. You have turned the noise of life into the silence of the library. You find your small stool in the corner, leaning your head against the cool stone wall. As you close your eyes, the image of the moving quill continues to play in your mind, a rhythmic, visual lullaby that carries you away from the world of men and into the world of stories. But the silence of the scriptorium is not the only vigil being kept. As the last candle burns down to a stub, the air in the long, drafty corridors begins to grow colder. There, in the shadows of the battlements and the deep recesses of the gatehouse, a different kind of watch is being held. It is not a vigil of ink or wax, but of steel and leather. A man is pacing the stone walks, his eyes scanning the horizon, his body tuned to the smallest movement in the grass. We leave the scent of ink and the stillness of the books to climb the highest stairs once more. Following the steady rhythmic footfall of the night watchman as he scans the obsidian dark for the first sign of the sun. Leave the silent, ink-stained sanctuary of the scriptorium and the scent of old parchment behind. We are ascending once more, but this time we are not heading for the warmth of the kitchens or the sweetness of the candle muse. We are climbing the cold external stone stairs that lead to the very edge of the castle's world, the battlements. You are the night watchman, and your world is one of vast obsidian distances, freezing iron, and the heavy rhythmic pacing of a man who stands between the sleeping and the dark. As you step out onto the ramparts, the transition is a physical blow. The still, indoor air is replaced by the relentless, rushing pressure of the open sky. It feels like a wet weight against your chest, smelling of wet slate, distant rain, and the cold, metallic emptiness of the high altitudes. Here, you are the ultimate guardian, the lone pair of eyes tasked with watching a horizon that refuses to reveal its secrets. The only movement is the slow, mechanical shifting of your silhouette against the star-drenched sky. The ritual of the watch begins with the perimeter. You walk the length of the curtain wall, your gloved hand trailing along the cold, jagged teeth of the crenellations. Feel the texture of the stone. It is rough, encrusted with lichen, and frozen to the touch. Daw. This is your safe anchor, the solid, unyielding reality of the granite beneath your boots. You stop at each embrasure, peering out into the void. Below you, the castle moat is a ribbon of black glass, reflecting nothing but the dim, distorted shapes of the clouds. You are immersed in a landscape of silhouettes. You scan the tree line of the distant forest, looking for the flicker of a campfire or the unnatural movement of a shadow. Your eyes move in a slow, practiced sweep from left to right, then back again. It is a mechanical, hypnotic movement that mirrors the oscillation of a pendulum. You are not just looking, you are sensing the air with your entire body. You feel the vibration of the wind through the arrow slits and the slight structural groaning of the wooden hoardings under the atmospheric pressure. The slow story of the night watch is one of internal endurance. Take the stillness from becoming overwhelming. You measure the world in paces. 100 steps to the north tower. 100 steps back. You repeat the numbers in your mind, the mental count providing a thin thread of companionship in the immense dark. 1, 2, 2, 2, 3. 1. Your breath emerges in pale, ghostly plumes that vanish instantly into the gale, a visual testament to your life in this frozen space. The cold is a living thing here. It bites at your nose and numbs your cheeks, but you welcome it. It keeps your vision sharp. It keeps you present. You shift the weight of your poleaxe from your right shoulder to your left, feeling the familiar heavy ache in your trapezius muscles. The weapon is a solid, comforting presence, a piece of forged iron that connects you to the physical world. You are the silent heartbeat of the fortress. The visual reveal of your vigil is the shifting of the celestial clock. You watch the great bare wheel slowly around the North Star, a glittering glacial movement that marks the hours more surely than any sundial. You are the only soul in the keep who witnesses the true depth of the night, the moment when the darkness is so thick it feels like velvet against your skin. In this space you realize that you are not just guarding against human enemies, but against the sheer weight of the unknown. There is a profound, safe power in this solitude. You are the master of the shadows, the one who knows exactly where the moonlight hits the stone and where the darkness remains absolute. As you reach the gatehouse, you pause to look down into the courtyard. From this height, the castle looks like a sleeping beast of stone, its breath rising in thin, gray trails of smoke from the dying kitchen fires. You feel a deep structural peace in knowing that your presence is the reason that beast remains undisturbed. Now comes the drift of the final hour. The sky to the east is beginning to turn from obsidian to a bruised, leaden gray. Your legs feel heavy, as if the stone of the ramparts has begun to seep into your boots, and your eyes are grainy from the persistent wind. The exhaustion is no longer a sharp edge. It is a soft, blurring fog that makes the horizon seem to vibrate. You are no longer pacing. You are floating through a world of gray mist and fading stars. Every movement is muffled by the thickness of the dawn air, a distant echo of the man you were at midnight. You are merging with the atmosphere of the morning, becoming a ghost on the battlements before the sun has even risen. You find a small, sheltered stone bench near the watchtower, leaning your head against the freezing masonry for just a moment. The cold doesn't bite anymore. It feels like a cool, stabilizing hand holding you in place. The night is finally surrendering. The first pale, watery light is illuminating the frost on the fields, turning the world into a landscape of silver and ash. Your watch is nearly over. You see the distant visual movement of the porter beginning his rounds in the courtyard below. The castle is waking up, but for you, the world is just starting to quiet down. You take one last look at the horizon, a final sweeping scan of the quiet valley, and feel a sense of safe completion. You have held the line. You have kept the peace. You have survived the night. The visual transition from the dark to the light is your final reward, a slow-motion revelation of the world you have protected. But as the watchman descends the winding stairs to find his bed, the internal life of the keep is already stirring in the softest, most delicate of ways. In a small, sun-streaked chamber in the women's wing, the air is not filled with the movement of boots on stone, but with the rhythmic, whispering slide of a needle through silk. There, a woman sits in the first light of the morning, her fingers moving with the precision of a spider, weaving the dreams of the night into the fabrics of the day. We leave the cold wind of the battlements to find the quiet, domestic warmth of the seamstress, whose world is one of silver thimbles, colorful threads, and the silent, enduring patience of 1,000 tiny stitches. Section 11. The seamstress, silent microscopic revision. Leave the cold, wind-swept stone of the battlements and the heavy, rhythmic pacing of the night watchman behind. We are moving inward now, through a series of narrow, drafty corridors where the early light of dawn begins to bleed through the arrow slits, creating long, dusty bars of gold that hang suspended in the still air. You are the seamstress of the castle, and your world is one of silence, silver thimbles, and the infinite minute precision of the stitch. As you enter your small workroom in the women's wing, the atmosphere shifts from the expansive and the cold to something intimate, warm, and profoundly still. The air here is a slow, fragrant suspension of dried lavender sachet, raw sheep's wool, and the faint, dusty scent of cedar wood from the ancient fabric chests. This is a sanctuary of domestic rhythm. While the men of the castle measure their days in miles and battles, you measure yours in the length of a single, shimmering silken thread. The ritual of the morning begins with the selection of the needle. You reach into your wooden sewing box, your fingers brushing against the cold, smooth surfaces of bone buttons and silver pins. You find your favorite needle thin, sharp, and perfectly balanced. As you hold it up to the pale light of the window, it glints like a tiny, frozen lightning bolt. This is your safe anchor, the absolute control you have over this one small point of polished steel. You take a spool of dyed silk, the color of a bruised plum, and begin the meditative task of threading the eye. This requires a stillness of the heart that no soldier could ever master. You hold your breath, your focus narrowing down to a single millimeter of space. The thread slips through a silent, perfect union. You are now immersed in the microscopic geography of the fabric, where the weave of the linen looks like a vast, textured landscape of crossing paths. You begin to work on a heavy velvet mantle, a garment of deep indigo that feels as soft as moss under your hands. The movement of the needle passing through the fabric is a purely visual and tactile experience, a rhythmic, whispering slide of metal through fiber. It is a motion so delicate, it can only be felt in the absolute absence of distraction. Each stitch is a tiny, repetitive miracle of endurance. You pull the thread through, feeling the tension of the fiber as it tightens against the velvet, then plunge the needle back down. Your body sways slightly with the movement, a slow, hypnotic rocking that mimics the cradle. The rest of the castle, the visual bustle of the courtyard, or the distant movement of the horses fades into a blurry, irrelevant background. In this room, the only reality is the distance between one stitch and the next, a space of pure, unadorned focus. The slow story of your labor is told in the hidden repairs that no one else will ever see. You are currently reinforcing a seam in the undertunic of a young page, a boy who runs so fast he constantly outpaces his own clothes. You notice the small, clumsy mend his mother made before he left his village, and you carefully work around it, adding your own strength to hers. You are the invisible weaver of the castle's social fabric, the one who repairs the damage done by the world's friction. There is a profound, safe power in this act of mending. You are taking something worn and making it whole again. As you work, you feel the jagged edges of your own day being smoothed over by the repetitive motion of your hand. You are not just sewing silk. You are sewing peace into the very atmosphere of the room. The visual detail of the thread disappearing into the dark velvet is a form of deep, wordless satisfaction. The reveal of your existence is the realization that beauty is born from thousands of tiny, invisible acts of patience. You look at the intricate embroidery on the sleeve of a lady's gown, a garden of silver lilies, that took you a month to complete. To the world, it is a display of wealth, but to you, it is a map of 30 quiet nights. You remember the exact moment you stitched the curve of that petal, the way the candle flickered, and the way the light hit the silver thread. The garment is a physical vessel for your time. This knowledge brings a deep structural stillness to your mind. You are not hurried by the sun. You are governed by the perfection of the line. Your eyes trace the silver patterns, finding comfort in the symmetry and the order you have created from a chaotic pile of thread. As the morning progresses, the light in the room grows warmer and more golden, illuminating the fine silver down on the surface of the wool. Your eyes are beginning to burn from the intensity of the focus, and a dull, familiar ache has settled between your shoulder blades. But this is the drift of a task well done. The exhaustion is not a weight, but a softening of the senses. You find yourself staring at the way the needle disappears and reappears, a rhythmic magic trick that makes the passage of time feel fluid and dreamlike. You are no longer thinking about the stitches. You are simply being carried by them. The room feels as though it is floating in a sea of amber light, disconnected from the gravity of the fortress. Your vision blurs slightly, turning the colorful threads on the table into a soft, impressionistic rainbow. Now comes the final knot. You loop the thread and pull it tight, a sharp, satisfying visual snap as you cut the excess with your small iron shears. The work is finished. You spread the garment out across the table, smoothing the velvet with the palm of your hand. It is perfect. It is silent. It is ready. You lean back in your chair, letting your hands rest loosely in your lap. The warmth of the sun on your neck is a final golden benediction. You have finished your part in the castle's long, slow day. You have turned the chaos of a torn thread into the order of a finished robe. The tactile memory of the fabric lingers on your fingertips, a soft reminder of the peace you have cultivated in this small, sun-drenched corner of the world. But as the seamstress begins to rest, the very stones of the castle seem to let out a long, shuddering sigh. The individual lives we have followed, the maid, the boy, the farmer, the watchman, begin to blur and merge into a single collective heartbeat. The sun has reached its peak, yet the shadows of the past are longer than ever. We leave the quiet room and the scent of lavender to move toward the final threshold, where all the tactile sensations of the day and all of the rhythms of the labor fade into the ultimate, unbreaking stillness of the stone itself. We are moving now toward the end of the journey, where the story dissolves and only the deep, restorative sleep remains. The long, rhythmic day of the fortress has reached its inevitable and silent conclusion. We leave the sun-drenched workroom of the seamstress and the soft, tactile comfort of the velvet thread behind. We are no longer following the individual pulses of the kitchen, the stables, or the high battlements. Instead, we are expanding our vision to encompass the entirety of the castle, the massive, unyielding skeleton of granite and limestone that has witnessed every silent labor we have observed. The sun has crossed the zenith and is now sinking into a deep, bruised indigo, casting shadows that stretch like long, dark fingers across the valley floor. Within these 12-foot thick walls, the light does not simply vanish. It dissolves into a milky amber haze that clings to the vaulted ceilings and the deep-set window embrasures. This is the moment of the collective eye drift, where the castle itself seems to settle deeper into the earth, surrendering to the crushing weight of its own history, its own gravity, and its own absolute stony stillness. Imagine the great hall now, stripped of its daytime purpose. The long oak tables, once covered in the grease and debris of the feast, are now bare and polished to a dull, mirror-like glow by the soft, dying light of the afternoon. There is no one here. The air is perfectly still, a cool and heavy volume that tastes of old stone, cold iron, and the faint, lingering memory of wood smoke. The banners hanging from the high rafters do not move. They are weighted with the dust of centuries, frozen in mid-air like the wings of a gargantuan sleeping bird. You are walking across the flagstones, but your presence leaves no mark and creates no disturbance. You are as light as a single dust mote, dancing in a final horizontal beam of gold. Every step you take leads you further away from the world of action and deeper into the world of pure, unadorned being. The architecture itself seems to be leaning inward, protective and certain, offering you a sanctuary that is as old as the mountains from which these stones were hewn. We move toward the very heart of the keep, the central pillar that supports the immense gravity of the entire structure. Reach out and touch the stone one last time. It is no longer cold. It has reached a neutral, structural equilibrium, a solid anchor that exists entirely outside the frantic passage of human time. Feel the vibration of the castle's absolute stillness. It is a deep, subsonic resonance that settles in your chest, slowing your pulse to match the tectonic pace of the granite. The worries of your modern life, the digital glare, the deadlines, the relentless noise of the outside world are utterly extinguished here. They cannot penetrate these ancient walls. They cannot survive in this atmosphere of pure structural existence. You are Recifing. You are anonymous. You are a part of the long, unbroken lineage of those who have found their ultimate peace within these gray protective shadows. The visual landscape is now a study in shifting grays, deep purples, and soft, fading ambers. The edges of the world are blurring into a single cohesive shadow. The distinction between the stone and the air, between the shadow and the faint remains of the light, is beginning to dissolve entirely. You are floating in a sea of dark velvet, drifting through the vaulted ceilings and out over the silent battlements. The valley below is now a tapestry of silver mist and obsidian trees, a world that is waiting for nothing. There is no destination left to reach. Every story we have told the maids struggle with the grease. The boys circle at the fire. The scribe's precision with the ink has reached its conclusion, not with the closing of a door, but with an opening into the infinite dark. They are all resting now, their physical energies reclaimed by the cool, damp earth. Focus now on the physical sensation of your own body, as it mirrors the castle's descent into the night. Feel the weight of your limbs, heavy as the leaden plates in the scriptorium, sinking into the soft, yielding surface beneath you. Your breathing has become a slow, rhythmic tide, as effortless as the movement of the clouds above the keep. Each exhale is a release of a different era, a different labor, a different weight. The tension in your jaw has evaporated, replaced by a profound facial stillness. Your eyelids are heavy, opaque curtains that shut out the last remnants of the day. You are no longer an observer of the castle. You are the castle itself. You are the stone, the mortar, and the deep, dark foundation. You are the silence that lives in the gaps between the rocks. You are the memory of the light, fading into the certainty of the dark. The stars above are now the only points of reference in a world that has lost its edges. They are cold, distant, and shimmering, yet they offer a sense of cosmic order that is deeply comforting. You watch them through the internal eye of your mind, seeing the constellations wheel in their slow, eternal dance. There is no hurry. There is no time. There is only the vast echoing space of the night. The castle is now a silhouette, a jagged shadow against the deep violet of the atmosphere. It is becoming a part of the mountain, a part of the sky, a part of the very fabric of the universe. You are sinking into the mattress of history, the layers of time folding over you like heavy, warm, and scentless wool. Your body is a vessel of absolute structural stillness. Your mind is a clear, dark pool, reflecting nothing but the vast, cold geometry of the constellations. There is no more need for words. There is no more need for thought. The rhythm of the castle is now your own heartbeat, slow, steady, and certain. You are the silence that remains when the world has finished its work. The light has vanished, but you are not afraid, for the dark is a kind and generous master. It offers you the gift of anonymity, the gift of rest, and the gift of total, unbreaking peace. You are drifting. You are fading. You are home. The stone remains, the stars return, and the world is finally perfectly at peace. As you descend further into the velvet depths of sleep, imagine the final image of the fortress, a crown of silver light upon a mountain of shadow, standing silent and eternal under the watchful eyes of the stars. The threshold is crossed. The transition is complete. You are no longer watching the story. You have become the quiet that follows it. The night is vast, kind, and limitless, an expanse of rest that stretches out before you like an uncharted ocean. Every muscle in your body has surrendered. Every thought has dissolved into the mist. You are the stillness of the keep. You are the cold of the well. You are the warmth of the ash. You are the ink on the page. You are the stitch in the silk. You are everything. You are nothing. You are simply asleep. The stone is your bed. The shadow is your blanket. Dot. The stars are your ceiling. The silence is your song. Everything is still. Everything is shadowed. Everything is as it should be. Sleep now. Sleep. Dot. Sleep.